Clinton Jaws, that's who I am. Go to my website, clintonjaws.com. Guess what? An article. I'm going to read some of this article, and I know what you're thinking. Why would I watch a guy on YouTube read an article? And I don't blame you. I don't know why you would. But this is kind of interesting because it is proof that there's systemic racism in the correctional system, in our justice system, in our policing world. Systemic. They proved it. They actually proved it. You're going to hear the proof. You got to hear the proof. This is the proof, okay? This is the title of the article, and I can't speak. You guys know that. Indigenous federal inmates are infected with COVID-19 at a disproportionately high rate. Oh my God. Okay, so, does anybody care, first of all? I'm just putting that out there. I can't even believe I read it with that title. Correctional Service Canada said Wednesday that of January 10th, there are 207 active COVID-19 cases among inmates in federal penitentiaries. And I'm thinking, that sounds pretty good. Like, big deal. Of those, 39 are among inmates who identify as Indigenous. So I'm assuming there's 39. Which makes up almost 19% of the overall caseload. Oh, that's terrible. That's bad, right? That's bad. Indigenous peoples make up 5% of Canada's population, but accounted for just under one-third of the country's federal prison population as of January 2020, which Canada's correctional investigators said at the time had reached a historic high. The trend represents disturbing and entrenched imbalances in a deepening indigenization of Canada's correctional system, Ivan Zinger, the correctional investigator, said at the time. So this trend, guys, it's disturbing and it's an imbalance. We must balance this. We have to. We have to figure out how to balance this. There needs to be more white people in jail, obviously. You got to make it fair. It's unfair. Justin Piche. This is what Justin Piche, he's a professor of criminology at a university. And these guys, man, they know what they're talking about. Whenever you see that, a professor of criminology, I've met them. I've had those professors teach me, and they know their stuff. What's he say? This discrepancy shows that Indigenous peoples are disproportionately impacted by institutions that produce these kinds of health outcomes. Oh, you got to listen to this. He's also a researcher for the Prison Pandemic Partnership, an academic research group that tracks the effect of COVID-19 on lives of Canada's inmates. Isn't that great? That's awesome. Did you guys know that they had something like that you're paying for? They're actually researching Canada's inmates with respect to COVID-19. You're paying for that. That makes me feel safe. Thank you. Thank you, Justin Piche. What else do you say? He said he thinks this dynamic can be partially explained by historical patterns of genocidal violence and state neglect that Indigenous peoples have endured by institutions in Canada. So summarize, institutions are producing these kind of health outcomes for Indigenous people, and it can be explained because of the historical patterns of genocidal violence. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense, doesn't it? I think it gets better. That's why they're getting COVID. Genocidal violence. What else he say? He says this. That, to my mind, is evidence of structural racism, said Piche. Because prisoners are getting COVID-19, that is structural racism. Not only is it structural racism, it's evidence. And he's a professor, and it's in the media, so it must be true. We finally got an example of racism. COVID-19. Certain groups getting COVID-19. Structural, that's a new one, hey? Have you heard of that one? Structural racism? Interesting. Oh, you got to hear what this person wants. This is a great idea. You got to hear this idea. Earlier this week, the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples called on Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino to speed up the release of low-risk offenders and those to limit the spread of the highly transmissible Omicron variant in federal prisons. Lots here, guys. Lots to dissect. Because he wants to release offenders, but just the low-risk ones. Even though it's really hard to get into jail, he wants to gather all the low-risk ones that are in prison. Can he find the low-risk ones? Is there such a thing of low-risk prisoners? People that went to jail because they broke the law, they're criminals, and they need to go to jail to keep me safe, my daughter and my son safe, society safe, the community safe. But he's going to find the low-risk ones. And he's going to release them because they want to stop the spread of the Omicron variant in jail. And that's important, right? I know you care. You don't want to see inmates get the Omicron, right? You have to agree with it. It's a great idea. Why are they in jail? I mean, really, right? Just release them. Come on, guys. Come on. Oh, what else? Alex Cohen, a spokesperson for this Mendicino guy. He said in a statement that Correctional Services has put in place initiatives to stop the spread of COVID-19 in federal institutions. And I think that's a great way. You know, guys, if you want to stop the inmates from getting a headache or a sore throat, if you want to stop the spread of that, you send them home. Yeah, they broke the law. But, you know, you got to give them another try, even though they had countless tries and they're in jail, most of them for multiple charges, for having a extensive criminal record. They deserve to go home. They deserve to have privileges, and these guys know what they're talking about, and you should listen to them. It's a care home that I know about, and it has 13 patients, old people that got the Omicron right now. Yeah. And you know what? They need to try to stop. Nobody has died yet. They're actually doing really good. But they need to stop the spread. And what I suggest is they take those people from the care home that need care, but you make them go home. Okay. They're not going to die from the Omicron at home, most likely, but they will die because they no longer have care. But what have you solved? You've stopped the spread. And that's what they should do at care homes. It's a great idea. Great idea. You guys are hitting it out of the park. What else did this Cohen say? Well, he said something really good here. This was good. Cohen said they are making significant efforts to reduce systemic racism in the justice system. Well, it's about time. It is about time. I wonder what those are, though. I wonder what the significant efforts are. Maybe he'll tell me. And so they're making significant efforts to reduce systemic racism and address the overrepresentation of indigenous peoples in prisons. Oh. Did you know there is an overrepresentation of indigenous peoples in prisons, guys? Yeah. And that's because of systemic racism. Because society is racist towards that group, I guess. And that makes them commit crimes, multiple crimes, I think. And therefore, they go to jail. What else is he going to do? These include culturally appropriate approaches to indigenous corrections. I'm not going to pretend to even understand what that means. Maybe somebody can leave a comment. That's weird. These include culturally appropriate approaches. I wonder what those are. Well, I guess he's not going to tell us. Maybe he'll tell us at a later day. Man, I wish he would give us an example of systemic racism in the justice. Well, we just heard one. COVID-19, right? I wonder why there's an overrepresentation of indigenous peoples in prisons. I hate to admit it. And I probably shouldn't tell this story, but we had an overrepresentation once in Duncan. And that was more than once. But I remember this night in particular. It was so busy. It was off the wall crazy. It was like 4 a.m. and I'm driving back to the detachment. I want my night to end. Everybody wants their night to end. I got somebody in the back. I got a prisoner. And I swear to God, I'm avoiding looking in front of me while I'm driving because I know there's a drunk driver in front of me. We were just so maxed. There was nothing we could do. Crime was just rampant that night. We go back to cells. There's 13 non-white. Okay. I think it's either 13 or 15. But let's say 13. There's 13 prisoners in jail, and there's only one white guy. And I look back at that day, and pure example of racism, isn't it? Like I guess we purposely went out, driving around, avoiding white people, and focusing on certain groups because, like they say, there's systemic racism in the police world and the justice system. But man, you know what I used to think, which is clearly wrong? I thought that we arrested those 13 people because they committed crimes that night. And I need to stop thinking that way, okay? That's my white privilege talking, obviously. And don't you dare, okay? There is an overrepresentation, and it's not because they're committing crime, guys. That's not why. It's racism. That's if you say it's not racism, these people don't have a job. Okay? So you can't say that. You have to say racism. You know what? If you say racism, it's less work. It's easier to just say it's racist. Everything's racist. Police are racist. Justice system are racist. We will not focus on important things. Well, no, that is important. Okay. But we won't focus on other things like broken families. Every call that I ever went to that involved a youth came from a broken family. No dad. But that's not important. Oh, you got to hear this. This is I don't know if this is a guy or a girl, okay? But it's Kim Beaudin, and this person knows their stuff. It's the National Vice Chair of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples. This person says, the high rate of COVID-19 cases among Indigenous inmates is one of the reasons the organization is calling for an accelerated release. Yeah. So Kim wants to release these prisoners. Beaudin said he speaks regularly with people on the inside. So I guess he's talking to these inmates, okay, in jail. And about how they are doing. He asked them how they're doing. And whether they can access health care. That's nice of him. This guy sounds awesome, assuming it's a guy. What I find, though, is that the majority of them are stressed out. Oh, my God. That's not good. You don't go to jail without... That's racist. You should not... If you're in jail, you should not be stressed out, okay? It should be stress-free for you. It should be almost like a getaway, like a vacation. The majority of them are stressed out. They don't want to be dragged out there in a body bag, he said. Oh my, well, I don't blame them. So they don't want to get the Omicron and then be dragged out in a body bag. You know, it's funny though. I don't know of one prisoner that has died of the Omicron, but I guess it's happening. It's not happening in the care homes with the elderly, but I guess it's happening in prison. So they're stressed out, and these bad guys don't want to be dragged out in a body bag. Needs to be a better environment. What do we do with them if we release them? We're going to hear about it. Beaudin said, given the prolonged nature of the pandemic, the risk of being infected with a virus will likely continue along with the potential of a new COVID-19 variant. So there might be new variants down the road, maybe later in the year and stuff. So what's your suggestion, Kim? It just doesn't seem to end. At least if they go home, yes. So at least if they go home, that's where they should go. Absolutely. Be with their families instead of being inside there. It's like a petri dish. Now, who would not agree with that? You take the prisoners, because they're going to die of the Omicron, and you stop the spread, and Even though they committed crime and they need to be punished, they don't need to be behind bars and punished. They can go home and be with their families instead who love them. And you know what? Maybe that's what they deserve. Maybe that's what they need. Now, there's a good chance that they're going to reoffend, but we'll deal with that when that happens. This article, guys, wow, I finally learned something. It's proof. It's evidence. It's evidence that there's racism in the correctional center, racism in the justice system, because a certain group is getting COVID-19. What was it, 39 of them? That's a lot. And I apologize. I want to apologize to you guys for only arresting one white guy that night. But I honestly thought that, I couldn't find any other white people that were committing crimes that night. And that's why we only arrested one. And I learned a lot from that night. And this article cleared it all up for me. I thought people in prison, whether there's one group higher than the other group, I thought they were in prison because they were criminals. I thought they were in prison because they needed to be punished. But that's not what it is. It's racist people and racist institutions. And it's not because they were committing the crime. Anyways, I like the fact that they're fixing the problem. It sounds like they're fixing the problem, and we know what the problem is. It's racism. We need to focus on that, continue focusing on that, because we focused on that for year after year after year after year. And it seems like nothing's changing, but maybe I'm feeling good that something is about to break. Don't focus on other things. Focus on the real problem. Canada's racist. Our systems are racist. Everything's racist. And it's important that we keep on treating certain groups like victims so they can walk around feeling like victims. That's how you fix this. What's that? Did you even know? You got people, he's getting paid to track the effect of COVID-19 on inmates in Canada. Do you believe that part? I haven't heard this one before. Do you guys know what structural racism is? You want to hear an example of it? Inmates getting COVID. That's an example of structural racism. It's evidence. Facts are in, guys. I can't believe I'm talking about this. It's not even interesting. I'm going to try to bring up some interesting points. Why am I holding my cup like this? They go to jail because they're criminals, okay? They've committed crime. They go to jail because they deserve to go to jail. And a lot of them don't deserve to go home. They deserve to be in jail because they broke the law. Why would you release criminals? Because they got the COVID. Omicron. They want to release them because Omicron. Did you even know Canada's doing this? Why would they come up with such a stupid idea? Culturally appropriate approaches to indigenous corrections. Of course you don't understand what that means. You're not supposed to understand what that means. It doesn't make any sense. They do that on purpose. What's systemic? There's systemic racism in the justice system? Can you give me an example? No, they can't. It's why he has a job, this Cohen guy. It's why all these people that I've said, they have a job. They say racism every single time. That's what gets them elected. That's how they make a paycheck. This is the conversation that I don't hear anybody else talking about in Canada. The overrepresentation of another group that's in jail. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why there's an overrepresentation? Clint? Are you telling me they're in jail because they committed a crime? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's the evidence. They're committing crimes. I'm sorry there's not enough white people in jail, even though there's more white people in jail. But they're saying this justice system is racist. Police are racist. That's why there's so many of them in jail, in prison, because of the justice system and the police. We're not out and about. The police aren't out and about searching and hunting. We get calls from the public. Now, why? Why was there 13 of a other group in jail that night? Isn't that the conversation we should be talking about? Instead of just saying, Oh, it's because you're racist. It's because the police are racist. The correctional system's racist. And that's just one night. It's easy to just say racism, right? We're not fixing the problem when we say that. It's not racism, but we just keep on saying it. Racism. Well, what are we going to do to fix that? Oh, we'll shell out some money. That'll fix it. We arrested them that evening because they committed crimes. They were breaking the law. And we were keeping them safe. That's what we were doing. That's exactly what we were doing. Inmates are stressed out. Aren't they supposed to be stressed out? They're in prison. They're stressed out. Does any part of you care? Of course not. Good. I'm glad. I want you to be in jail stressed out. I don't want it to be a vacation. These people. Aren't we supposed to take their privileges away? I can't believe I'm even saying these words. It's so idiotic. It's so stupid. It's so senseless. Why would we give them the right to go home after they broke the law, after they're flat out criminals? So they could spend time with their families. You can't make it up, man. You can't make this up. Don't you think if we really thought it was racism, and if it really was racism, that the problem would be corrected? Because it'd be pretty easy to correct. And that's why the problem isn't corrected. Because they're focused on racism. They're focused on something that doesn't exist. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I'm saying that there's not an overrepresentation in the justice system of a certain group because of racism. Police aren't racist. They're not systemically racist, but they just keep on focusing on it. So the problem never gets fixed. It's a revolving door. The door will never stop. It'll never shut. It'll just keep on going and going and going. And there's not one person around that is standing up and staying the other side. I didn't want to arrest none of us wanted to arrest anybody that night. I just wanted to stay back at the office. Flirt with the guard. Even though the guard was a man named Murray. And that's another thing. There should be hotter guards.